maybe a little mouse, which is tiny in pretty much every regard. So there are many different types of sizes and shapes that this creature could be. Very good. And we can really improve this by adding description. What makes writing descriptive? Tip number 1, add details. So details are kind of the finer points. After you've stated your main idea or the thing that you really want to get across, it's up to you to add details to make it more descriptive. So details give a story life. Before, you might say something like, my sister had a smile on her face. Now what about after? My sister smiled like a cunning chihuahua. Now that would be a kind of interesting smile, right? Have any of you seen a cunning chihuahua smile before? So that is an interesting detail since it's something kind of exotic and it might be a little bit weird. And that really gets more of a feeling across than just saying my sister smiled. Details make a story unique. Before you might say something like, my grandmother drove us to the amusement park. Well, that's not too out of the ordinary because you can get driven to an amusement park any day. But afterwards, my grandmother drove us to the amusement park in her old Dodge Dart, which smelled like a poodle. And I'm sorry if I've been doing a lot of dog details, but you get the idea of how adding a detail can make something funny or more interesting. And they also can make a story more exciting. Before, the cat jumped on you. Okay, well, the cat jumps on you. That doesn't sound so bad, right? But what about the huge, hairy cat jumped on me, sinking its claws into my sweater? So let's practice a little, adding details. The tiger yawned. How could we add details to the tiger yawned?
Great. The tiger yawned very loudly.
The tiger yawned very loudly. Excellent idea. We can add very loudly. Any other ideas as to how we could expand on details to the tiger yawned very loudly?
Look. The tiger yawned so loudly.
The tiger yawned so loudly that, sorry?
Did it make me want to rip my ears off?
That it made me want to rip my ears off. Oh, very nice little description there. Okay, so we could say the tiger yawned. There we go. The tiger yawned so loudly that it made me want to rip my ears off. Okay. So hopefully it wasn't that loud, but it's possible, so we can put it over there. The tiger yawned so loudly that it made me want to rip my ears off. Any other things we could add?
It's not as loud as anything else. How could it, what else could it say?
What else could you say instead of loudly? How else could you describe how it yawned? That's it? Say it loudly.
Wait.
I'm sorry?
The lion yawned very quietly.
You could also be very quiet. So the tiger yawned so quietly that I had to strain to hear, maybe. The tiger yawned so quietly that I had to strain to hear. So this would be a good idea. And you could have many different ways of describing a simple yawn. So before, where it might have been just something like the tiger yawned, then now it could become the tiger yawned so quietly that I had to strain to hear, or the tiger yawned so loudly that it made me want to rip my ears off. So now that describes the yawn itself. Now what about the tiger? What could we add to describe the tiger?
Frolic.
The hairy tiger.
The hairy tiger, very nice. What about colors? The hairy...
China.
Black and white.
Black and white. Oh, nice. Just like the snow tiger we saw over there. The hairy black and white. Alright, so we can have now a sentence. The hairy black and white tiger yawned so quietly that I had to strain to hear. Or the hairy black and white tiger yawned so loudly that it made me want to rip my ears off. Or we could say something like the small and furry. So there are lots of different adjectives or descriptive words that we can use to describe the tiger and the yawn. So this is one tip when you're looking at a sentence. Look at both things. So maybe you can find a word like tiger and yawn. And then you can go and describe the yawn, and you can also go and describe the tiger. So those are some ways you can expand with your description. What about my sister yelled at me? My sister yelled at me. Maybe some of you have had that experience.
My sister, she yelled loudly at me.
Okay, my sister yelled loudly at me. So we can add an adjective to describe yelled. Very nice. What about sister? How can we describe sister?
Graded.
Mean.
Mean, okay. Maybe furious. So like very, very mad. My mean, furious sister yelled loudly at me. Her face turning red like a habanero pepper. How about that? So we can use these things. Have you ever heard of something called a simile before? It's a little bit complicated. Okay, well, a simile is just basically something where you make a comparison. So her face is red like what? A habanero pepper. So a habanero pepper is red, and that was the color of her face. So you kind of make a comparison between those two things. I could tell my mom was getting mad. How could we write descriptively for I could tell my mom was getting mad?